Put your hand in the water, not at the edge, in past the wrist, past the forearm. Let the dark Amazon water close over your skin and just leave it there for a moment. And pay attention to what you feel, which is nothing. No current against your palm. No temperature gradient. No visible indication of anything moving nearby. The water is opaque. Deeply, completely opaque. Stained by the tannins of millions of tons of decomposing leaf material washed from the surrounding forest, and it gives back nothing to the sense of sight. You are touching a world you cannot see. You are in contact, right now, with something you have no information about. That is what it is to be in the Amazon River. The Amazon River contains more species of fish than the entire Atlantic Ocean. More than an ocean. The largest body of salt water on this planet, covering tens of millions of square kilometers, holds fewer distinct fish species than a single river, and its network of tributaries cutting through a continent. And most of what lives in it you would not recognize, because most of it has never been put in a natural history documentary, and some of it has barely been put in a scientific paper. The Amazon River is, by biological definition, the most diverse freshwater ecosystem on Earth, and by physical definition, one of the most visually impenetrable. The water is dark. The water is deep. And the water contains things that have been evolving specific solutions to the problem of living in this specific dark for millions of years. Here is something that will stay with you. There are bull sharks in this river, not at the mouth, not in the brackish transition zone where salt and fresh water mix. Inside, hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles upstream from the Atlantic Ocean, navigating one of the few river systems on Earth long and wide and deep enough to accommodate a shark that is already considered one of the most aggressive species in the ocean. The bull shark is the animal responsible for more confirmed unprovoked attacks on humans than any other shark except the great white. And it is in this river, right now, in water so dark that even the shark cannot see more than a few feet in any direction, hunting by the same chemical and pressure sensing systems that its ancestors developed hundreds of millions of years ago, when the ocean was still the only place anything chose to live. What made the bull shark enter the Amazon in the first place? And what keeps it there is a story about adaptation that is more remarkable than the fact of its presence. But before we get there, I want you to feel what the river is. Not the surface of it, what it is. Tell me where you are watching this from. Drop it in the comments, because the Amazon River story is one of those things that reaches a certain kind of person. A person who wants the version of the wild where the thing you cannot see is the point, not the problem. Now let us go in. The Amazon River is not one color of water. It is at least two, and where those two types meet, they flow side by side in distinct streams, one dark and one light, without mixing for kilometers, as though the river cannot decide which version of itself it wants to be. The dark water, stained by the humic acids released as the ancient soils of the Guyana and Brazilian shields release their organic matter, is called black water, even though it is actually more the color of strong tea or dark amber. It carries almost no suspended sediment, which is why it stains so clearly. The white water rivers running off the mineral-rich Andean slopes carry a turbid grey-brown suspension of silt and nutrients that looks tan or milky in comparison. Both are opaque. Both are, to the human eye, attempting to see through them, completely impenetrable. This opacity is not a feature of the Amazon River. It is the Amazon River's most important ecological property. Every species that evolved inside this system evolved inside darkness. Not the darkness of depth the way deep ocean creatures do. The darkness of color. The river is dark from the surface. At half a meter depth, it is black. And the consequence of millions of years of evolution inside an environment where vision is essentially useless has produced, across every trophic level of the river's food web, a community of organisms that reads the water with everything other than its eyes. Pressure, chemistry, electricity, sound. The Amazon River is a sensory landscape that operates on channels that human beings barely register as information. The flood pulse is the organizing event of the entire system. Every year, without fail, the river rises. The snowmelt of the Andes combines with the tropical rains of the wet season, and the water level of the main channel climbs, slowly and then fast, and then finally by 10 or 12 meters above its dry season low. The forest on both sides of the river disappears under it. The trees stand in water up to their canopy crowns. The flat floodplain becomes a shallow sea hundreds of kilometers wide in some places. And every animal that lives in this system on both sides of the water surface reorganizes its behavior, its territory, and its feeding in response to this event. Because the flood pulse is what runs this ecosystem, and everything in it evolved around when it comes and what it does. The black caiman chooses its position at the water's edge before the flood arrives. It has been there for days, already motionless, already invisible in the dark water, with just the armored top of its skull and those eyes breaking the surface. The eyes catch any light that reaches the water in the dark before dawn, and they glow. That glow, which a light directed at the river's edge will reveal as dozens of points of cold orange fire distributed along the bank in both directions, is the only warning the Amazon River gives that the apex predator of its aquatic system is watching the bank. The black caiman is the largest predatory animal in the Amazon River system. An adult is a mass of scale and bone and dense muscle, protected by a skin that deflects most attacks, armed with jaws that close with a force sufficient to crush bone, and capable in the water of an acceleration that gives bank animals essentially no warning between the caiman's position and the strike. It hunts at night primarily because it has the superior night vision in a system where nothing has much of it, and it hunts from the water because the water is both its medium and its weapon. The drowning that follows the caiman's initial bite is not a secondary consequence. It is the intended method of killing. The caiman drags its prey into the water, holds position in the current, and allows the river to complete the process. The black caiman eats everything the river and the bank produce. Fish, the largest ones it can locate, are regular prey. Capybaras come to the bank to drink. Tapirs enter the shallows. Large river turtles bask on logs and roots within reach of the water's edge. Jaguars have been taken. the jaguar being itself a significant river predator and occasionally venturing close enough to the water surface for the caiman's ambush advantage to outweigh the jaguar's killing speed. The caiman has been documented preying on anacondas. It has been documented preying on piranhas. It eats its own species, smaller caimans that enter its territory without adequate caution. The hierarchy of the Amazon River places the black caiman at a position where almost nothing is off the menu and almost nothing is reliably capable of killing a healthy adult. The caiman came close to losing that position. Commercial hunting for its skin during the mid-20th century reduced the black caiman population across most of the Amazon basin to a fraction of what it had been, and in many river systems it effectively disappeared. The ecological consequences of that absence playing out in fish population explosions and disrupted bank animal communities that took years to become fully visible. Legal protection eventually gave the caiman the space to recover. Its recovery has been one of the more complete conservation success stories in the Amazon. The populations in protected areas returning to densities that restore the full predatory function the caiman fills. The night patrol along the river margins running again the way it ran for millions of years. Before the hunters arrived, in the water below the caiman's hunting zone, in the murky mid-channel and the shallow backwaters and the blackwater oxbow lakes where the oxygen content drops to levels that exclude most fish, the electric eel navigates by a sense that no other vertebrate possesses in quite the same form. It generates its own electromagnetic field, not as a defense mechanism, not as an occasional tool, as the primary sensory system through which it perceives the world, running continuously from the moment it hatches a constant electromagnetic signal that surrounds its body, and that any object in the field distorts in a way the eel reads as precise information about shape, position, and movement. The electric eel is not an eel. It is a knifefish, a completely separate evolutionary lineage that arrived at an elongated, eel-like body through convergent evolution, meaning that the body shape that works for navigating the complex root tangles and drowned vegetation of the Amazon's flooded zones was selected for independently, in two different groups of fish. It breathes air. The water of the dark backwaters and flooded forest pools where it prefers to operate is often so low in dissolved oxygen that relying on it would be fatal, and so the eel surfaces periodically, its head breaking the water. The atmospheric oxygen absorbed through the highly vascularized tissue of its mouth. In the anoxic water where it hunts, this air-breathing capability removes the primary survival pressure that excludes other large predators, and the eel operates in zones where nothing else of its size can function. The discharge system occupies most of the eel's body. The main organ generates the high-voltage discharge used for hunting and defense. The hunter's organ and the sacs organ generate lower voltage pulses used for navigation and sensing. The low voltage pulse operates like a continuous sonar of electricity, the field it generates revealing the underwater landscape in electromagnetic terms. When a fish enters this field, the eel reads the distortion. When it commits to a strike, it produces a sequence of high-voltage pulses that involuntarily contracts the muscle fibers of the prey fish, immobilizing it completely for the fraction of a second needed to close the distance and take it. The discharge from a large electric eel can cause sustained muscle contraction in animals far larger than its prey fish, and the eel has been documented exploiting this effect against threats rather than prey. It rises toward the source of disturbance, pressing its body against the threat while delivering the discharge through direct contact. The eel does not hold its discharge for one pulse in these situations. It fires repeatedly, sustaining the series of shocks for as long as the threat remains in contact or the eel's organ charge permits, which in a large individual is long enough to be decisive. The bull shark entered the Amazon from the Atlantic. At some point in evolutionary history, the bull shark lineage developed the capacity to osmoregulate in fresh water, which is the biological process of maintaining the correct concentration of salts in the blood when the surrounding water has a different salt concentration than the body. For most sharks, this is an impossibility. The ocean environment and the physiological systems of a shark's body are calibrated to each other, and removing the shark from its salt medium causes the physiological system to fail. The bull shark evolved a kidney and rectal gland system capable of actively adjusting salt retention and excretion in response to changes in environmental salinity, making it one of the only shark species that can move freely between salt and fresh water without entering a period of physiological crisis. What the bull shark found in the Amazon when it began to explore these waters is something that ocean sharks almost never have: a river system large enough, deep enough, and long enough to function as a genuine habitat rather than a brief excursion. The Amazon's main channel runs wider and deeper than most people picture when they hear the word river. In places, the main channel exceeds 1 kilometer in width. Depths of 30 meters or more exist in the deepest bends and channels, and the river runs for thousands of kilometers, providing a continuous corridor of fresh water that a shark can navigate upstream almost indefinitely, following the current and the prey it carries. Bull sharks have been confirmed in the Amazon far from the ocean, in river sections that most people would not associate with shark habitat at all. The bull shark is not the elegant, sleek, speed-optimized profile of the great white or the tiger shark. It is compact, blunt-nosed, heavy-set. Its body is designed for a different kind of hunting than the open water pursuit of fast prey. The bull shark is an opportunist of the first order, eating fish, turtles, birds, other sharks, marine mammals, and whatever else presents itself in a form that can be taken. In the Amazon, the menu includes species that the bull shark has no evolutionary history with. But this matters less than it might to a more specialized predator. The bull shark's ambush capability, its willingness to investigate anything that could be food, and its known aggression toward perceived threats make it the only shark whose presence in a freshwater system generates the same level of concern that ocean sharks produce in coastal environments. The psychological weight of a shark in a river is different from a shark in the ocean. In the ocean, you know the shark is possible. You have been told. There are warning flags and lifeguard towers and a cultural awareness that the ocean is where sharks live. The river does not carry that awareness. You step into river water with a different set of assumptions about what is there. The dark, warm, familiar water of a tropical river is not a place where the mental framework of shark is readily accessible. And the bull shark, which prefers the shallow, warm, murky water that characterizes the Amazon's margins, is operating in exactly the environment where the human assumption of safety is strongest and the warning system is least alert. This is not the shark hunting you in any strategic sense. It is the shark doing what it always does, investigating chemical signals that indicate potential food. In the specific environment where the chemical signals of something standing in warm, shallow water produce exactly the kind of interest a bull shark acts on. The green anaconda is a different kind of danger in the Amazon River. Not because it is more aggressive or more frequently encountered than the caiman or the bull shark, but because of what it is, and where it waits, and the particular nature of the encounter it offers. The anaconda is in the water. It is lying in the shallows, in the tangle of roots and floating vegetation at the river's edge, in the warm, shallow pools of the flooded forest margins, and it is absolutely, completely still. The stillness is not sleep. The anaconda is aware of everything in its immediate environment through its heat-sensing organs, the deep pits along its upper jaw that detect infrared radiation in the surrounding space, providing a thermal picture of the environment that functions as a sensory substitute for the vision the murky water prevents. The anaconda is, in a specific sense, seeing you with its face while its eyes look at nothing in particular. The anaconda in the water is a very different encounter from the anaconda on land. In the water, where its body weight is supported by buoyancy, it moves with an ease and a speed that contradicts the impression its size gives on land. It can submerge completely, leaving no trace on the surface, and navigate through submerged vegetation and root tangles at a pace that its bulk on dry ground does not suggest it can achieve. The coil that it applies around prey in the water has the same mechanical logic as the coil on land, the constriction that prevents breathing. But in the water, the fight takes place in the medium where the anaconda is most functional and the mammalian prey is least able to brace or resist. A large mammal taken by an anaconda in shallow water is fighting both the constriction and its own inability to get traction against the soft river bottom, while the snake uses the root structure of the bank as anchor points for its coils. The anaconda does not need to find you. It needs to be in the right position and for you to come to it. The shallow, warm margins of the Amazon and its tributaries are where terrestrial mammals drink. They are where capybaras cool themselves in the heat of the day, where deer approach the water, where anything that lives on the bank and needs to drink must eventually come. The anaconda has positioned itself, sometimes days in advance, at the place where the thing it is waiting for must eventually come. It does not expend energy searching. It expends energy waiting. And waiting for a cold-blooded animal with a metabolism running at a fraction of a mammal's rate is almost free. Something much smaller than the anaconda and a caiman and the bull shark deserves more than its reputation, because what it actually does is stranger and more interesting than what the legends say about it. The freshwater stingray is responsible for more actual documented injuries to humans in the Amazon River basin than any other aquatic animal. It lies flat on the sandy river bottom in the shallow margins, a shape so closely matching the surrounding substrate in color and texture that it is invisible to the foot moving toward it through the murky water. The stingray is not hunting the foot, it is resting. It is doing what stingrays do, which is to reduce activity and energy expenditure during the periods between feeding events by lying on the bottom in a position that is both concealed from predators above and comfortable for an animal built flat. The foot that steps on it does not kill it. It causes the defensive reflex that drives the venomous spine at the base of the tail upward into whatever is pressing down on it. The venom the Amazon freshwater stingray delivers is protein-based and causes a level of pain that people who have experienced it consistently describe as among the most intense they have encountered from any injury. It does not frequently cause death in healthy adults, but it causes tissue necrosis around the wound site, long-term pain that resists conventional pain management, and in some cases structural damage to the foot or leg that produces lasting physical problems. The stingray's primary defense is the invisibility of its resting position. In the clear water of a swimming pool, no one steps on a stingray. In the dark, sediment-heavy shallows of an Amazon tributary, where the bottom is invisible and the foot must feel its way forward, the stingray's camouflage is perfect. The encounter is almost always accidental. Moving through the same water, in the dark oxbow lakes and the slow-side channels where the oxygen is lowest and the aquatic competition least intense, the arapaima navigates with the confidence of something very large that has been solving this environment's problems for a very long time. The arapaima is ancient. Its body plan was established long before the Amazon existed in its current form, when the river's ancestor was a different system in a different configuration of the continent, and the arapaima moving through the flooded forest today is essentially the same design that moved through the shallow Miocene waterways of the evolving South American landscape. It surfaces periodically, the broad flat head breaking the dark water and the gulp of air absorbed through the modified swim bladder that functions as a lung. And then it descends again. In the water that surrounds it, in the low oxygen backwaters that most fish cannot survive in for more than brief periods, the arapaima operates with a metabolic independence from dissolved water oxygen that no other large Amazon fish can match. The arapaima's scales are a materials engineering achievement that has attracted genuine scientific interest. Layered in a structure where the outer surface is mineralized and hard, and the inner layers are arranged in alternating orientations of collagen fibers. The scales distribute impact force across the layered structure rather than allowing it to concentrate at a single point. The practical result in the Amazon is that piranha teeth, which can bite through the scales of most large fish in the river, cannot penetrate the arapaima's armor. In a river where piranhas are both extremely common and capable of quickly reducing most large fish to skeleton once they begin feeding in numbers, the arapaima's scale structure provides a passive defense that effectively removes piranhas from the list of dangers it needs to manage. The arapaima has existed in this river long enough to have grown scales that specifically resist the teeth of the animal that is most commonly responsible for damaging every other large fish in the same water. The piranha clicks. That is the sound the shoal makes in the water. A dry, percussive clicking generated by the rapid contraction of muscles attached to the swim bladder. A sound that carries through the water as a communication signal between the fish in the group and as a warning to predators that the shoal is aware of them and is not the passive prey item it might appear. The piranha shoal is not silent. It is not the explosive, frenzy-driven, uncontrolled mass that the movies made of it. It is a social group with internal communication and a specific set of behavioral triggers that transform its default cautious behavior into the coordinated feeding response that earned it its reputation. The red-bellied piranha, the species most associated with the feeding frenzy image, is under most conditions a careful and somewhat cautious fish. It eats primarily other fish in the methodical way of a mid-level predator. It scavenges. It takes bites of fins from fish larger than itself as a strategy for obtaining protein without the risk of taking on something that could fight back. In a fully functioning Amazon river with adequate food resources and normal prey availability, the piranha does not strip animals to bone in minutes. It circulates through the river ecosystem as part of the cleanup apparatus, consuming the dead and the dying and the scraps of larger predators' meals with a thoroughness that keeps the water from accumulating organic material that would otherwise generate disease. When the flood pulse arrives and the river rises over the forest, the character of the Amazon's danger changes. The Caiman moves from the river channels into the flooded forest. The Anaconda moves from the shallow river margins into the submerged understory, where the water is shallow and warm and the terrestrial mammals that have been displaced by the rising water are concentrated on whatever high ground remains accessible. The electric eel navigates around the drowned trunks and root systems of the flooded forest, its electromagnetic sense reading the complicated new architecture of the water space around it. Fish species that spent the dry season in the main river channel disperse across the flooded plain in every direction, some following pathways through the submerged forest that only they know, guided by chemical gradients and the memory of the previous year's flood and the year before that. The bull shark, if it is far enough upstream during the flood season, potentially moves into the flooded forest with the water. This has not been extensively documented, because tracking any animal in a flooded forest is extremely difficult, and tracking a shark in opaque floodwater between drowned trees is close to impossible with current technology. But the logic of the bull shark's behavior in other freshwater systems suggests it follows food rather than a fixed habitat, and the flood displaced prey concentrations in the shallow, flooded forest offer the kind of high-density food availability that the bull shark's opportunistic hunting style responds to. The idea of a bull shark moving between the drowned trees of a flooded Amazon forest, hunting displaced capybaras in knee-deep water, exists somewhere between documented biology and inference. But it is inference that the biology of the animal fully supports. The pink river dolphin, the boto, moves through the flooded forest with the ease of an animal that specifically evolved for this transition. Its flexible neck allows it to turn its head relative to its body axis in a way that ocean dolphins cannot, an adaptation for navigating around trunks and branches in the three-dimensional space of the submerged forest. Its echolocation, which operates in the dark river water year-round, reads the flooded forest during high water as a spatial map of trunks and branches and the fish sheltering in them. A map updated continuously by the returning echoes of its own sonic projections. The boto finds fish in the flooded forest that nothing else can find, penetrating the densest root tangles and the narrowest gaps between trees, following individual fish into spaces that exclude every other large predator in the water. The boto is pink, which is one of the more unusual visual facts about a large wild cetacean. The color comes from the blood vessels near the skin surface and from scarring accumulated through a lifetime of encounters in a social species with physical competition between males. Young botos are grey. The pink develops as the animal ages and as the skin thickens and a subcutaneous blood vessel network becomes more prominent. What you are seeing when you see a pink river dolphin is not a species that is pink for reasons of camouflage or signaling. You are seeing the accumulated physical history of an individual life written in the coloration of its skin. The boto appears in the mythologies of the Amazon's indigenous communities in a form that reflects the uncanny quality of its behavior, the intelligence it demonstrates when it approaches boats with curiosity, the way it surfaces near people with an apparent awareness of the individual it is surfacing near, the mobility of its face, which is unusually expressive for a dolphin. These are the observations that produced the stories. The boto is real, and the boto is intelligent, and the boto navigates this river with a sophistication that makes the dark water feel, when the animal breaks the surface nearby, a little less opaque and a little more like a place with another mind in it. The boto is now endangered across much of its range. The dam construction that fragments the river blocks seasonal movements between connected water bodies. Mercury from gold mining operations, which spreads through the river food chain and concentrates in the fish the boto eats across a lifetime, now registers in the boto's tissue at levels that raise genuine concern. The deliberate killing of botos, sometimes by fishermen who see them as competition for fish and sometimes for use as bait in the catfish trade, reduces populations in areas where it occurs without the visibility that would generate protective response. The Amazon is not a fully known system that is being documented. It is a partially known system being explored, and the rate of new knowledge suggests that the parts we do not yet know are substantial. The deep bends of the main channel, the black water lagoons in the most remote sections of the basin, the subsurface sediment layers where organisms no one has seen yet are completing nutrient cycles that the entire ecosystem depends on. These are not areas of marginal interest. They are the foundation of the system, and they remain in the dark in both the literal and the scientific sense. The threats to the Amazon River come from a direction that the river's own predators were not built to handle. Mercury from artisanal gold mining operations does not behave like anything the river's food web evolved to process. It enters the water as inorganic mercury, is converted by aquatic bacteria to methylmercury, and begins its movement through the food chain by binding to the organic molecules that small aquatic organisms consume. Each step up the food chain concentrates it further, because the organisms that eat mercury-contaminated prey retain the mercury at higher rates than they excrete it. By the time the methyl mercury reaches the large predatory fish, the caiman, the boto, and through fish consumption, the indigenous communities living along the river. Its concentration has multiplied through a process called biomagnification to levels that cause neurological damage, reproductive impairment, and in high enough doses, death. The mercury enters the system invisibly, without any apparent disruption to the water's appearance or smell. and the damage it causes accumulates over years before it becomes visible in the health of the organisms at the top of the food chain. Dams built across the Amazon basin's major tributaries stop the seasonal fish migrations that are one of the most important biological processes in the river system. Fish that move between the main channel and a flooded forest each year have routes that in some cases cover hundreds of kilometers. A dam in the path of that route does not redirect the fish. It stops them. The populations that depend on reaching upstream spawning grounds cannot complete their reproductive cycle. The downstream communities that depend on the adult fish returning from those spawning grounds find that return reduced. The entire seasonal pulse of energy transfer between the river and the forest, which the flood cycle drives and which the migrating fish populations amplify and distribute, is disrupted wherever a dam blocks the passage. Deforestation along river margins removes the bank vegetation that stabilizes the soil, shades the water, moderates water temperature, and provides the overhanging cover that both predators and prey use for concealment, breeding, and rest. Eroded banks contribute sediment that changes the river's chemistry and substrate. The destruction of floodplain forest eliminates the habitat that the seasonal flood cycle fills and empties, reducing the system's capacity to absorb and distribute the flood pulse and shrinking the biological volume that the river community depends on at high water. And yet, the river is still there. The dark water still runs. The Caiman is still in it. The eel is still navigating by electricity in the dark backwaters. The boto is still making its echolocation calls in the flooded forest and reading what comes back. The piranha shoal is still clicking in the warm shallows. The anaconda is still lying in the roots at the water's edge, waiting for the thing it is waiting for, with the patience of an animal that has been doing this for millions of years and has no particular reason to believe this time will be different. The Amazon River is the most biodiverse and the most biologically dangerous freshwater system on Earth, and it is still in significant parts unknown. The most dangerous thing about it is not any single animal. It is the darkness, the quality of the water that makes everything in it invisible, that forces every organism inside it to develop senses beyond sight, that makes the encounter with anything in it a surprise until the moment of contact. The river does not reveal what it contains. It contains it silently in the dark amber water and waits. The river's tributary system adds a dimension that the main channel alone does not capture. The Amazon's major tributaries are themselves rivers of enormous scale, running for hundreds or thousands of kilometers through forest that in some areas has never been entered by people from outside the indigenous communities that have lived there for generations. These tributaries carry their own biological communities, their own endemic species, their own apex predators. Some of the most recently documented fish species in the scientific literature come from remote tributary systems where the first systematic biological survey was conducted within the last decade or two. The rate of new species description from the Amazon basin remains one of the highest of any freshwater system in the world, and most of those species come not from the main channel but from the tributaries, from the black water streams, from the seasonally flooded forest pools that may be dry for 8 months of the year and form a temporary lake for 4. The giant otter that moves through this river's margins is a different kind of intelligence from everything else in the water. It navigates by sight and sound in a system that mostly navigates by other means. Its large eyes giving it functional vision in the murky water down to the shallow depths it prefers to hunt in. It communicates in a way that has structure. The 9 or more documented vocalization types carrying specific social information between family members that coordinates the group during hunting, during territory defense, during the care of young. The family of giant otters that controls a stretch of river is there because they won it. From previous occupants, from competing family groups, through the sustained assertion of a social unit that hunts cooperatively, defends collectively, and backs that defense with the kind of coordinated noise and movement that the river's solitary apex predators, the Caiman and the Anaconda and the electric eel, do not produce. The otter's social cohesion is its primary weapon, and it uses it against everything. The giant otter was hunted to the edge of its range for its pelt, which is dense and fine enough to be commercially valuable in a way that made the hunting economically rational for those conducting it and ecologically catastrophic for the river system. Its recovery in protected areas is genuine but fragile. The family groups that exist in the best river reserves are remnants of a population that was once distributed across the entire basin and now occupies a fraction of its former range. The vocalizations of an otter family on their stretch of river, loud and specific and communicating constantly between individuals that know each other and trust each other in the way that members of a functioning social group do, is one of the Amazon River's most distinctly alive sounds. Everything else about the river's biology is oriented towards silence and concealment. The giant otter makes noise. It announces itself. It claims the river with sound and means it. The river monitor lizard patrolling the bank in the daylight hours reads the water's edge with its tongue in the same way the anaconda reads the shallows with its heat pits, chemically, continuously building a picture of what is there and what has been there recently from the molecules dissolved in the air and the substrate. It finds fish that the water has left behind in retreating pools during the dry season. It finds caiman eggs in nests near the bank during the laying season. It finds whatever the river deposits at its margins as the water rises and falls, because the river's marginal zone is where the transfer between aquatic and terrestrial is most active, and where the most varied food resources accumulate. The monitor is not an apex predator. It is the most comprehensive opportunist the bank produces, and in a system this productive, opportunism at this level generates a genuinely substantial living. The map of the Amazon River's danger, if you could draw it, would not be evenly distributed. The deep main channel, where the current runs fast and the water is cold and the dissolved oxygen is highest, is dangerous in one way. The shallow oxbow lakes and flooded forest margins, where the water is warm and slow and dark and the oxygen is lowest, are dangerous in a different way. The bank itself, where the water meets the land, is the zone of maximum predatory activity from both directions. The caiman attacking from the water and the jaguar from the land, the anaconda positioned in the roots between the two. The flooded forest during high water is dangerous in the way that a landscape that has been transformed into something unfamiliar and opaque in every direction is dangerous, because the familiar rules of where things are and what they are no longer apply. The water moves. The seasons change the river's character completely twice a year on a schedule so reliable that the entire community of organisms in it has organized its reproduction and its migration and its feeding around the timing of the rise and the fall. The Amazon River is not a static environment that dangerous things happen to live in. It is a dynamic system that the dangerous things are part of, and that produced them, and that continues to shape them every year through the flood pulse and the drought and the particular chemistry of this water and the particular biology of this forest and the particular history of this continent. Everything in the river is the river, in the same way that everything in the forest is the forest. The dark water and the things that evolved inside it are not separate. They are the same story. If something from this river reached you today, leave it in the comments. Tell me which creature, tell me which moment. The Amazon has more to reveal than any light can find in it.